Hello, pile number one, and welcome to your Drain Freeze reading, where we're looking at what you could stand to put a stop to. And I usually like to spend some time describing the cards and talking about the cards, but these really are meant to be to the point and very short and sweet, so we're just going to get into the reading itself. Point blank, the drain that we are talking about for you is something of the past. Across the board for all of you, it's the past with a capital T and a capital P, where the past itself is knocking on your door. And the knocks are quite loud as of late. Now, the individual circumstances, of course, are going to vary depending on who you are and where you're at, because it is an online public reading, which means anybody can come on here. For some of you, for a lot of you, this definitely feels like it's a past relationship. For others, still, it feels like a past job or a past group that you spent a lot of time with. This feels like it could be church, maybe even just like a group of friends. It might be a family. There's that. Across the board for all of you, though, well, actually, no, I'm lying. For some of you, a specific few of you, but it does feel like it might be for all of you. But you'll know if it's true or not. It's not just what we've already discussed, where the past is a relationship or a job or a place. It's not just that. It's also you, who you were in the past, and that is what's knocking on the door. Okay, we have here this idea of the past that you have cut ties to. If it is a relationship, it's been over. If it's a job, you haven't worked there in a minute. You haven't been a part of that in a while. And that's something that's like established. It's something that is just, it's over, basically. But despite the fact that it's over, there are still things that let you know its presence is still there. So again, that's another thing that's going to vary depending on who you are. For some of you, it's just that like it's the nostalgia in you. It's just like you can't seem to let go of it, forget about it. It's something that stays present on your mind, in your heart, take it as it applies, consistently. For others of you, it's that it's like legitimately in your face. If it's a place or a job, where it's a place, like just to give the example of like a church thing, right? It feels like you're getting posts on your socials about like an event there, or maybe it's so local that like you're seeing posters for something about it in your face. If it's an individual, maybe they've gone as far as messaging you, so they're like back in your like in your circle, so to speak. For others of you, it doesn't necessarily have to be like a direct message. It's more so just something that has reminded you of them, and it's really put that thing of the past back into your consciousness. Okay. For those of you for whom you're also feeling it like it's you, it's the past version of yourself, congratulations. Let me just say that first, for taking accountability for who you are and what you're feeling, and your own part that you play in how your life kind of plays out. That isn't easy to do. And I know that looking at ourselves as part of the equation when we look at the past, for better or worse, it does take some know-how to do it effectively. And so if you are doing it effectively, like, congratulations. I think you already know where this reading is headed, but let's keep on going for those of you who haven't quite gotten there and you're just kind of like coasting on this, not coasting, but you're kind of breaking into this mentality, into this understanding that it's not so much that it's that thing of the past that's alluring to you. What's alluring to you is who you were at the time that you were engaging with it, and or what you gained, what the you of that past gained from that thing during that time. Okay, if it is an individual, let's say that things ended because they ended for whatever reason. And let's say, just in this hypothetical, things ended because you guys had a disagreement about something pretty important. Politics, I don't know, something like the next step in your relationship. The disagreement demonstrated a sharp opposition in opinion and understanding. And that's why you guys broke up. In this hypothetical. And so, like, through the breakup, let's say, things got really heated to the point where it's like you're glad that that individual is no longer a part of your life. Cool, you got over it. Now it's been some time, and the nostalgia has hit, and it's not so much that you want them back in your life. It's more so that you just, you miss having that in your life. You miss being when it was good. You miss the good bits. And so there's this understanding in all of that, where it's not just that you miss the good bits, it's also that you sort of, I don't know if miss is the right word, but there's a nostalgia for who it was that you were back when you were able to enjoy said thing. And there's something to be said about that, because when we can see it that way, a lot of the time, the thing itself it loses its appeal. So if it's a person, like you stop looking at that person with such nostalgia or whatever it is that's calling on you or pulling on you, you stop looking at it a certain way because you recognize that it's you who you miss. It's parts of you that you miss. And I'm kind of spoiling the ending here, but I kind of want to wrap this message up for those of you like that's true, because the rest of it isn't really for you. Where that's true, that's the key here, where you kind of, it feels like that understanding is the end of one journey and the beginning of the next, because it's the conclusion to the journey of how do I get over this thing completely? And it's like, okay, now you have, because you've gotten over it so completely that you don't actually miss the thing. Your psyche's just kind of latching onto whatever ways it can remember this in a good way. That's not going to be true across the board, but it's kind of this idea of like, it no longer moves you. You're not in this process of getting over it anymore. You've gotten over it and you're thinking about it in a completely different way now. And that's kind of the conclusion that I'm kind of trying to highlight here. Okay, so if that's true, where we know that it's not just the thing of the past, but also like we ourselves that we kind of we're feeling a bit of a nostalgia for, the drain, that's the drain. It's not so much that like you reaching this conclusion and this growth is a bad thing or a drain. No, not at all. It's just, it's basically saying, now that you have addressed, now that you've come to this truth and you've accepted that it's not that person, that place, whatever it is, it's not them that you miss. It's more so you. It's just remembering something familiar and comfortable. It's not so much that you want to actively bring those things back into your life because you understand that things are different now and you want different things now because you yourself are different. And so like that's why it's a drain, is because you're sitting in that space of, well, okay, I don't want to say that you're sitting there. It's more so coming through as, be careful that you don't stay there in that space and take this conclusion of one journey as, okay, well there, I'm done. I don't have to like do any more. Like, no, that's, no part of life ends until it ends. And so it's like one ending is just the beginning of another. And then life is so dense and there's so many aspects to it that even when one chapter ends and another begins, there are other aspects of your life that are currently in process. And so it's like, nothing is ever that neat. So it's just this idea of, okay, yeah, you've come to that conclusion. What comes next? And so for the rest of you, where that's not true, where you just know that you actually do just miss that individual. Maybe it's for a specific few of you where it's like you know that welcoming this person or this thing back into your life is actually to your benefit. The rest of this message is for those of you who are either on the fence or who know that this is a good thing for you, to bring back into your life. And especially, like, I want to point out, it's not just about you wanting to bring these things back into your life because you know that they would be good for you. The rest of this message is also for those of you that's a possibility. Like, this thing of the past, this person of the past has actually, you know that it's a possibility for that to be a part of your life again. And if you're sitting in the space of, well, how do I determine whether this is the best thing for me or not? The tarot portion of this reading defines that very concretely and very, very clearly. Okay. We have the Page of Pentacles reversed, the Chariot, and then the Page of Wands upwards. I want to point out that the Chariot itself always depicts a chariot being drawn by two animals, sometimes mythical creatures, and something about those creatures, those animals, are always depicted in a very opposite way. In the Waite-Smith drawings, it's a sphinx, two sphinxes. It's a black and a white one. Here we have two horses, a black and a white one. Why am I pointing that out? Is the point of the chariot is having the know-how, having the skill to hold paradoxical points, to be able to wield two opposing maybe opinions, or just being able to wield difficult things and then being able to progress yourself forward despite how difficult that may be. Okay. A, a practical example, and I don't know why I'm being drawn to give this example, but I'm just, here I am. Think of like how a doctor, someone who practices or who goes to school so that they can practice medicine. Maybe that's a specific one, but whatever, anything that you practice to do. It's not just about learning about the subject matter. So like for a doctor, that's like learning anatomy and like medicine and all of that other stuff like that you need to know about. And it's good knowledge to have as a doctor because it's you know, you need to know things as a doctor in whatever profession you decide. But then it's not just about the knowledge that you have to know. It's also the how-tos, like the tangible practice of it. So it's not just like knowing that this part of the body's over here and it does this and there's all these things there. But then like, let's say this is a doctor who's going to go into surgery. Like they would also have to learn how to do surgery and what that looks as an actual practice, and then apply that knowledge of anatomy and medicine, etc., into how they are going to practice that vocation. And so for you, it's kind of, or rather like the chariot is this idea of I'm wielding these two beasts of knowledge, one the anatomy, the actual knowledge of the thing, and then the other one's like the skill, the know-how, the tangible practice of the thing. And then through wielding both things, which are like beasts of their own and they're difficult to handle on their own, through mastering both, I am able to direct these things and progress myself into, so like this doctor would progress into their career as a surgeon, etc., wielding these two pieces of knowledge. Okay, why did I go into all of that? Because there's this beautiful symmetry in the tarot here where the two opposing energies for this chariot are the two pages, and the opposing energy is not the difference in element because one's pentacles and one is wands. It's also that one is reversed and the other one isn't. I just wanted to point that out because I love that symmetry. And I'll come back to that after I finish talking about the individual cards and what they're saying individually. But okay. With the Page of Pentacles reversed, the first bit of criteria for you to kind of determine whether this is something that you should welcome back into your life or not. The Page of Pentacles reversed is basically saying, or it's asking you to be mindful of what is not a good investment. Define for yourself what is not good soil for you to plant seeds into. So take out of the equation when you're thinking about things, forget about that thing of the past. Forget about that specific job, forget about that specific person, forget about it all. And then sit with yourself and contemplate if it's a job, you know, like what that you're trying to like, should I reapply? Should I accept this offer? Whatever the case is. Sit with yourself and, you know, outside of that job, what does a bad job look like to you? Like in your experience and just knowing what you know and your preferences, etc. Define for yourself, what does a bad job look like? If it's a person, what would a bad partner look like? A bad friend look like? A family, whatever the case is, what does a bad blank look like? And then define that for yourself. When you have that clear, you'll then hold that list up to what it is that you're contemplating and then act accordingly. If you said that a bad job is one where they overwork you, really weird hours, and I don't know, you have to wear a uniform. Like that's just for you. That's just, I don't want to do that. I don't want to work weird hours. I want a consistent schedule and I want to be able to wear whatever I want. And then this job that's offering you like a lot of money makes you work weird hours and it makes you wear a uniform. So you know that you're not going to be happy here. It's like, okay, then that's a good way to determine like, is that a bad thing for you? And then take the same logic and apply that if it's a person, where it's like, what would a bad partner, friend, family member like be to me? And then does this person meet those requirements? Now, if there's been some time between when you've been with this person, around this person, and now, yes, it's going to take you welcoming them back into your life a little bit in order for you to find out, have there been tangible changes made that I can see that are sustainable, so that I can relax into this relationship and really be a part of it the way that I want to be. Again, take that as it applies. Another thing that's kind of coming through with the Page of Pentacles reversed, and this is kind of coming through on their end, uh, if they're this is going to be for a specific few of you. I don't know that this is going to apply across the board. Don't let me make up truths for you. But if you know that part of the problem with this thing of the past is that they leave too much up to you. If it's a person, they'll message you back every single time, but they're not the type to message you first, and you like that. Or it's always up to you to make the plans. Or I don't know. There's something about like if you're not seeing as much effort, if not more effort on their part than what you're putting in, that's definitely something to look out for. That's like another thing that the Page of Pentacles reverse is saying here. On the other end, the Page of Wands is saying two things. On the one hand, it's saying follow what it is that you want. Again, if we've defined what would make a bad blank, right? A bad partner, job, etc. Okay. What is on the list of the things that you actually want? What would make your dream blank? Partner, job, family. Maybe it's kind of weird, like a dream friend or a dream family member. But not really, whatever. This is just criteria of what is it that you actually want? What is it that you're actually looking for? And then abide by that. But another thing that's coming through, it's not just about what you want out of the specific thing that we're like judging. It's also just in general. Like, what in life do you want? Maybe during this time that you spent away from, like while that thing's been over and you've been getting over it and, becoming your own individual self away from it, you have found other things to love and other things to pursue. And that's kind of what's being said here is like, give yourself to that. Place your focus onto the things that you actually want to do. And then bonus, pay attention to how those things make you feel. If you have like hobbies that you're passionate about, just things that you're into, things that you like, pay attention to how that makes you feel and understand that like that's kind of what life is about, is that fulfillment. And that's a really good way of that's really good criteria for what you should be involving and investing yourself into. Involving yourself in and investing yourself into. But the other thing that the Page of Wands is saying is a message of courage. And this is especially true for those of you where everything that we've said so far, where it's like, okay, when I define a bad partner for myself, that's not them. Maybe it was them in the past, but like that's not them now. Or maybe it wasn't even them in the past and it's like, that's not them. And then bonus, when you're trying to like, what do I want? It's like, oh, like they meet that criteria. Like if there's a whole bunch of signs and synchronicities and things that are telling you like, this is a good thing for you to engage with, and you, out of your own fear, you're kind of like, that's why this message of courage is coming through, where it's like, it is meant to be scary. A lot of things are always going to be scary, and you are kind of expected to do it anyway. That's what courage is, being scared and doing it anyway. Okay, the final message that is coming through with the Chariot as the final message in terms of criteria that's coming through from the Chariot, but then really all these three cards together, is engaging with this thing of the past. Is welcoming that back into my life. Will that progress me? Is that something that's going to help me grow and develop myself forward? Or is this something that I'm going to look at as regressing? Is it keeping me stable and comfortable and in a one place? And it's like, okay, that's what's important here, is that this is kind of where like the wisdom is coming through, where it's not just about what you want, but if you're kind of tuning in to see like, well, what's the best thing for me? The best thing for you is to engage with anything that progresses you forward, not anything that keeps you comfortable and stagnant, or worse, regresses you. And so that's kind of you're being asked to look at these thing of the past with, where it's like, is bringing this back into my life going to make me better? Is it going to help me progress? Is it going, even if it's like bringing it back to get some sense of closure, be careful that you're not calling closure you not letting go and wanting to get back with them. I don't feel like that's true for all of you, because it really does feel like you are over it. But just, maybe it is just about like having that last conversation just to see where things go, and just because you're curious and you want to know, and you shouldn't die wondering. But yeah, it's just, ask yourself, is it going to help me move forward? Is it going to help me be better? It's not just about like, oh, it's familiar and it's comfortable. Like, honestly, the message of the chariot here is like, even if that's a good thing, even if it's like comfortable and it's like, yeah, like they made me happy. They don't. It's not that they make me any better. It's just I like them here. It's like what's being said here is that that might feel good and comfortable right now, but in the future, because you are the type of individual who can get over things and you're about like developing yourself and progressing yourself, if this is an individual or a space or a job that's not going to develop you and just going to keep you comfortable and stagnant, that's something you're being asked to let go of and leave in the past. There are other spaces that you can currently sit in. There are new spaces you could involve yourself in right now that'll keep you comfortable and familiar and stable, and you're being asked to seek those new things out, not reach for things of the past to stay comfortable in. That kind of seems to be the red flag here, where it's like that's the biggest no, where it's like if it's regressing you, that we're not even going to spend too much time there. You should already know that that's not a good thing for you. But if it's like, if we're sitting in the space of like, yeah, but it's comfortable, it's it's not gonna make me like a better person, it's not gonna make me a lot more money, whatever the case is, but I like it. It's nice. It makes me comfortable. That's where you're being asked like that. Okay, no. Like that's where that stagnancy might become dangerous if you engage with it for too long. And that's kind of what's being highlighted here. But okay. Final thing that I want to just to circle back to how I was talking about this beautiful symmetry that we have here. The pages are youth. And because, it goes pages, knights, and then the monarchs. So the pages are youth. And so there's, on the one hand, there's this idea of, and gauge it through maturity, where if it's clear that when you were engaging with this thing of the past, you were immature, and if it's like an individual or individuals, like you can recognize that like you engaging with them while you were immature was because they were also immature. A great way to kind of look at it is like, okay, I know that I've been maturing and I've been progressing. Has this individual, has this group, has this space developed as well? And kind of paying attention to that as well. But then this idea of, I've already said kind of like the full circle message, because kind of what I was seeing here, and yes, the point of the chariot is that it has like the two horses or the two creatures that like are opposite energies. But with the symmetry here, it kind of does feel like the one reversed, and I'm here now taking each of these individual cards and I'm applying a secondary message aside from everything I've already talked about. So I'm going to start to talk about these three cards a little bit differently than I've already described them, but that doesn't mean everything that I've said is negated or anything. It's just that I see this too, where the reversal of the Page of Pentacles here now feels like, because, each of the pages on either side of the chariot to me represents those two horses, the binary energies. And so the reversed page feels like one of these horses in the chariot being out of commission, where it's like for whatever reason that horse is just, they're not moving, they're not budging. And so I don't know, like what comes to mind is just the wisdom to know, okay, I'm trying to get somewhere, and that's the point of the chariot, is I have to progress. And I know that like through what I've learned, my wisdom tells me that I just have to progress as best as I can. And if that means leaving this thing behind, not this thing, but like this piece or this thing, and basically what it's saying is like sometimes in order to really progress forward, it really does mean leaving the past behind. And in this metaphor, it's like leaving a horse behind, where it's like, hey, like I really need to get to where I'm going. I need to make the hard decision. This horse that is out of commission, and there's nothing I can do. Like I have to leave the horse here, and I'm going to continue on my journey. And it might be a little bit harder because I'm now drawing this chariot. This one horse is now carrying the weight that it was carrying with the help of another horse. It's not going to have to carry by itself. So I know it's going to be a little bit more difficult, and I'm going to have to be smarter about how we move forward, but it's the best thing for me. And that's the kind of final message here, is that it isn't meant to be comfortable. It is meant to feel like you closing the door on the past. And again, there are some of you where you're not closing the door on the past, and through the criteria that we've talked about, you can understand, okay, yeah, I want to welcome this back into my life, or get to know it a little bit more so I can see if I want to welcome it back into my life. But then there are those of you who know that this is not something you want to welcome back into your life, or you are still part of that group that you do want to welcome this back into your life, and after you spend a little bit of time with it, you're like, actually, no, I don't want to welcome this back into my life. And so the point is, if you're at that point where it's like, no, there's no bringing this back, then okay, good. You're ready to take on the next part, or the next chapter, which is leaving this behind and understanding that that is meant to feel like a weight. It is meant to feel like a loss. If you've experienced death of someone near and dear to you, then you know what that's like, where it's like, right, I'm never going to see them again. That there's nothing I can do to change that fact. And you're being kind of asked to regard this in such a way, if you're ready to put it down, where it's like, yeah, there's nothing I can do to bring that back. There's nothing I can do, even if it's a possibility, even if it's possible for me to engage with that again, because I've seen what I've seen, because I know what I know now, I know that it's not possible. And it's just about moving through life, knowing that that's just something that's in your past, and that's all it is. We've left it there. That's where it belongs. I'm going to move on with my life now. Yeah, I'm going to leave that there. I hope that this message had something for you. Godspeed through all of your endeavors. And yeah, I hope to catch you at another reading. Bye. Hello, Pile 2, and welcome to your Drain Freeze reading, where we're taking a look at what you could stand to put a stop to and how to put a stop to it. We have for you the Garden, Bear, and Clover, which answers the question of the drain itself, and then how to put a stop to it. Tarot offers the 9 of Coins, the Empress, and the High Priestess reversed. Now, full disclosure, this is going to be a bit of a lashing, so buckle in. But it's a really good one. If you're paying attention, it's actually it's the highest compliment. It's just giving it to you. It's giving you this highest compliment in the form of a slap, because it kind of feels like you've reached the point where you need it because you're not listening to anything else. Okay. The drain itself is good. Okay, this is kind of just the words that are coming through, and I'm just going to get out of the way. We keep the good shit in the back so that we can dispense it the way that, like, we need to, it's valuable. We don't want to keep it out where anybody can grab it. We keep the good shit in the back, and you're out here giving it out for free. You give yourself too freely. It might not just be yourself. It feels like in some cases it's also your resources. So not just money, but your time, your energy. You give yourself too freely. And why that might be, like, for some of you, this message is it's coming through very vague because it can be applied to so many different things, and I feel like that's the point. But I'm just gonna give some random examples where for some of you it's very, let's call it surface level. Okay, and I'm not saying that just because I'm calling it surface level, it means that it's any less important. I'm just, when you hear what I have to say about the deeper end of this spectrum, you might want to understand why I'm calling this end of it the surface level end of the spectrum. At the surface level, it could be like the dispensation of your resources, and you give it too freely, where it's like, you shouldn't be spending that much money in those spaces. You shouldn't stay up so late, or you should stay home sometimes so that you can refill your cup and be ready for what you have going on. That you could stand to spend more time doing X, Y, and Z, which are going to benefit you and fulfill you, as opposed to spending time doing A, B, and C, which only drain you of your energy and your time. The point is, yes, at the surface level, it's that, where this message is coming through as kind of like a, hey, it's a drain we're calling it a drain for a reason, and it would behoove you to put a stop to that so that you can accumulate the wealth of that resource when you stop giving it so freely. So that's one end of the spectrum. Now, you can be on everywhere, all over the spectrum. It doesn't necessarily have to be that only one of these things is true. The extreme end of the spectrum here is that we're tapping into people-pleasing tendencies. This is an innate need. This is a deep internal need to be well-liked by everyone around you, and so you do what you need to make sure that people like you. How deep that rings for you, if it rings at all, again, it's a spectrum. But it for some of you, it also feels like if someone doesn't like you, you are uncomfortable. You can't stand having like conflict or knowing that someone's just mad at you, or just you're on the wrong in the wrong with them. Like, that's just something you cannot stand. Like, there's just the idea that you need to be well liked, well regarded. That is not just important to you, it is necessary. Again, a spectrum. Maybe it is just important to you. I don't know how true that's going to ring for you. Okay. Because garden is like, it's a public space. It's something that like everyone can access. And then clover is something temporary. But bear is very opposite to these two energies, because both the garden and clover, I almost want to call them like detached. They're detached energies, and that doesn't necessarily make them bad. But there's cards in the Lenormand that are like very close to the heart. They're very emotional. They're very like latched on. Like, for example, heart. Heart is like the embodiment of like what our heart is and everything that we want. There's stars, which is our hopes and our deepest wishes. There's moon, which is like the attention that we generate just off of our actions and our being and our aura almost. So like these are like very personal, very deep cards. But like clover, it's like something temporary. Yes, it can be good luck, but it's luck, so it's not something that lasts. Again, temporary. So it's like this neutral, very detached card is kind of what I mean. And then garden as well. It's a card that talks about like public spaces, people, something that it kind of feels like a podium, like a public space like that, where like you have like the attention of the public if you so choose to do something in this public space. And so again, like neutral, very detached. Bear, though, is strength. In some cases, it's looked at as the mother. And I'm not picking that up at all. But it's more so like that inherent strength, your internal strength, what you have to offer, your strength, your core. That's kind of what's coming through as bear. And so kind of what I'm seeing here is a kind of like a story with garden, bear, and clover. It's like a bear coming into the park to like do little tricks for some money. And okay, yeah, sure, that's cool. But like, if I were to go into a park and see a bear free of any oversight, like just a bear, like a wild bear, there's no like zookeeper or anything around, just doing little flips, and there's like the bear managed to find a hat or something to put in front of it so that people toss money into it, I'd be confused as hell. Because it's like, well, first of all, bear, why do you need money? And two, like, if you're hungry, you could eat that person right. I know that's kind of psychotic. It's a metaphor. I'm being funny. But like the point is, like, a bear needing money is kind of silly. And that's kind of what I'm getting from these cards. It's like you are this magnificent, majestic, wonderful bear in a park doing tricks. And it's like you're in these spaces that you don't belong. You're in these spaces that aren't really for you. And with bear here, it definitely feels like, okay, I don't know that it feels like you're definitely overgiving in spaces that don't really deserve it or aren't really asking for that. And it's kind of being put in a it's they're cards, so they're not wording it in any way. But the way that it's kind of coming through, I was going to say the way that it's being worded, the way that it's kind of coming through is there are spaces that can definitely not only hold you and what you have to offer and the way that you love, but there are spaces and people within which that will thrive. Like a seed, a well-nourished and well-taken care of seed. When you plant that in the right soil, it blossoms into something magnificent. And so far, you have been planting in barren soil, in soil that isn't yours and that cannot be kept. It kind of feels like with garden, you've planted a seed in like this public space, and because it's a public space, this seed isn't able to grow because people are walking all over it, and it's a park, it's a public space. People aren't really going to be, it's a park, they're not there to like garden. And even if you planted a seed there, and like let's say you put a little sign next to it saying I planted something here, don't trample over it, some kid might come through with a ball, kick that sign over, and nobody saw it, and now people are trampling all over your seed, and you couldn't be mad at them because it's a public space. And so there's this idea of you, again, giving yourself too freely in spaces that like that really isn't going to fly, because there are better spaces for you to invest yourself and your resources into that are going to like give the returns on what you invest are insane, basically. And because you're not investing yourself and your resources correctly, you're not getting the returns that you could be. And spoiler alert, that's what tarot is saying. Because we have the Nine of Coins, which is a card of wealth. We have the Empress, which is also wealth. And then we have the High Priestess reversed, which is wisdom not being utilized. But I'll elaborate. I want to start with the Empress, though, because the Empress is abundance itself, but like abundance in terms of with no control or no limit. So the wilderness is such because there is nothing to keep it. It's just the elements and nature doing its thing. And so the wildlife grows wild. The plants grow as they need to. And it's just going to keep on going because there's nothing there to tend to it. There's nothing there to keep it, except for, of course, the natural balance of and order of things. You know, animals come and eat those plants, predator, the circle of life. And so there's this balance kept. But like comparatively to a lawn, or just to stick to the message here, to a garden, which is well kept and it's meant to be very like manicured and clean cut, the wilderness, the Empress, is the opposite of that, where it just grows with absolutely no thought of limitation or stopping. It just keeps on going. And so that's depicted here in this card with this overflowing vessel where there's this like water gushing out of this jar, and it's like it's gushing in a way that it's like, okay, there's no way that there was this much water in this tiny jar, because it's not tiny, but it's definitely not big enough that there should be this much water gushing from it. And it looks like the water gushing from this vessel is kind of like a river. And so there's almost the idea, the symbolism that I get from this vessel and this river gushing from it is this that like never-ending fountain where it just keeps on flowing, and it's like it's a sacred vessel from which abundance flows. And so there's not this finite amount of water in that vessel. It just continues to generate water because it manifests from it, because it's abundance. It's a symbol of abundance. So it's never ending, basically. And so that's what you're being described as. Not only bear, but also the Empress. Like, there's abundance. You have all of this to give. You have like your resources, yourself. You give yourself too freely. And so that's also why I honed in so much on that like vessel from within which there's this infinite amount of like, for some of you, it really feels like love, attention, affection, just your wisdom. There's like a lot of it that flows from within you that you want to give. And that's why, again, you give yourself so freely. And you're being asked to kind of like put a stopper to that vessel because you need to accumulate it for yourself. The two reversals that flank this card are insane because the Nine of Pentacles upwards is a card of wealth. Point blank, the Nine of Pentacles upwards is the card depicting wealth. And it's coming up reversed because you give yourself and your resources too freely. There's not enough left for yourself. To keep with the metaphor of money, because you spend so freely, there's never enough savings for when you actually need those savings. And again, apply that as it needs to. We're not just talking about money here. And so, the Nine of Pentacles reversed, pretty point blank there. On the other side of the Empress, the High Priestess reversed. The High Priestess upwards is like deep intuitive wisdom, but also it can also just mean like knowledge that we have, but knowledge that's like the type of knowledge that's like mastery level, like things that we know a lot about, things that like we know to like a passionate degree, and maybe not like passionate, but like let's say it's like your profession, your vocation, where it's like, A mechanic that's worked 15 years, I would say, has high priestess level knowledge of a mechanic, of like knowing how to fix a car and what, things that like a mechanic with that much experience under their belt, like I could just drop off my car to them and they could drive it around for like 5 minutes and they would know what's wrong with it and then figure like do what they need to. And so that's like high priestess levels of wisdom. So like not just intuitive wisdom, which is being said here, but also just like knowledge that you've gained, things that you actually know. And so it's coming up reversed, which is on the one hand, and only take it if it's true, it's intuition that you are ignoring, synchronicities, messages from your guides, from the universe that you are not paying attention to in regards to your excess. And it's like, okay, keep that up. But on the other hand, not just intuition, it's the knowledge that you have not being utilized, and that's why it's coming up reversed. Point blank, you know better. You know better. At the end of the day, it feels like you have gone through enough things to know that the way that you operate and the way that you've operated thus far of just moving through life with no boundaries, it doesn't work. It allows too much bullshit in. There's too many bad people in the world for that to be a way that you operate. And it does mean that you do need to take better care of yourself and the resources that you have to dispense. Because again, to bring it full circle to how I started this reading, it's good shit. And you need to start learning how to keep yourself in the back, to keep yourself boundaried so that you can really, to know who you are like giving yourself to. I didn't want to word it that way. That sounded weird. But like where you're dispensing your resources, what you are allowing into your life and into your space. Because thus far, you've been, again, doing it a little too freely with no boundary, and that doesn't work. So it now is time for you to start learning how to abide by boundaries. And well, how do you do that? By valuing yourself more. Ask yourself how many people you know and be very honest with yourself. Quit being so generous. Quit being so nice. Be brutally honest about how many people you know that have to offer how much you have to offer where affection and love are concerned. I'm sure there's more than that. But this reading is picking up on that aspect of it, and so that's what I'm talking about. And it's not about like, oh, well, there's no one when I come to think about it, there's no one in my life that's like me and, oh, woe is me. No, it's not about that. And, it's good if you can think of people who like match what you can do or like taught you that or whatever the case might be. But the point is that use that as a criteria. It's like, I know what I bring to the table. I know how much affection I give. I know how much love I give. I know how much I have to give in a relationship, in a connection. It's time that I start to meet that, someone who can match that. And if not someone who can match that, someone who can appreciate it and give me as much as whatever they have to offer so that it feels like give and take and not just give. To kind of finish off the metaphor here, kind of like just because I had started it earlier where it's like you need to put a stopper to that overflow so that you can accumulate some for yourself. It's kind of like damming up a river so that the river can swell, so that it can grow stronger. That's what you're being asked here. The drain is whatever it is that you give yourself too freely to. You're being asked to dispense yourself and your resources more carefully, more intentionally, to be more selfish with yourself and your resources so that you can accumulate enough for yourself, and then you can serve from an overflowing vessel instead of just serving from your vessel and then being left without anything because you've given it too freely. My friend, I hope that this had something for you. Godspeed on all of your endeavors, and I hope to catch you at another reading. Bye. Hello, Pile 3, and welcome to your Drain Freeze reading, where we take a look at what you could stand to put a stop to, and how to put a stop to it. Answering the question of the drain itself, what we could stand to put a stop to, we have Stork, Ship, and Clouds, and then Tarot answers the question of how to put a stop to it, and it offers the Emperor reversed, the Hanged Man reversed, and the Three of Pentacles reversed. Do not be alarmed about the reversals. I mean, if you are feeling alarmed, that's actually a good thing because it means that you're paying attention. And yes, this reading is kind of picking up on. I mean, the point of the reading is that there's something that's draining you and that you need to put a stop to. So it makes sense that we're getting reversals here. But okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. The drain itself is there's something that you've been carrying a long time that you kind of need to accept now. It's time to stop carrying. Very vague, and it's kind of coming through that way because there are so many ways that this message can be applied. There's kind of it's gonna be like land on a spectrum of what you kind of because it's a public reading, so anybody can come here, and so really it can be anything that's going on where you can apply this message, where it can be applied to very surface level things. And just because I'm calling it surface level doesn't mean it's any less of a problem. It's just that's just one end of the spectrum where we're talking about surface level things. And then on the other, more extreme end of the spectrum, we have the internal, inherent habit, kind of like psychology type of shit, where, what this message is kind of picking up on is on a surface level. This is something like a job or a relationship, maybe a degree program, something that you have committed yourself to for a long time, that now that you're taking a look back, you've realized you haven't been happy here in a long time. And that's kind of the name of the game here. It's been a while since you can recognize that you've been happy here. On the more extreme end of the spectrum, and you can land in multiple spaces on the spectrum, it doesn't necessarily just have to be like one of these things can be true. But on the deeper end of that spectrum, we have this idea of a sadness or some type of emotional weight that you've been carrying most of your life. It's a deep, heavy emotion that has really it's a lens through which you have seen life, and as such has shaped the way that you look at life and move through it. And then again, that recognition, that understanding that it's a drain. And so now you're at the point in your timeline where the time has come for you to recognize this way of moving and this way of abiding. Okay, we've recognized what we recognize. This is a drain. How do we move past it? Before we get into the how we move past it though, I do kind of want to talk a little bit about each of these cards because Stork is, I mean, the traditional understanding of and the traditional meaning is definitely applied to Lenormand. Stork delivers things because the wholesome tradition, that was the explanation for where babies came from. You would tell a kid that a stork dropped it off, and that was that. And so it's something being delivered, but so it's distance traveled. There's definitely this idea of a distance traveled with stork because it's something being delivered from somewhere else. There would be no need for the stork if it was something that could be walked down the street, driven down the street or something. So there's distance traveled there. But then ship is also the card of distance, long distances traveled. Long distances traveled for long periods of time. And so two cards that really denote just how long you've been sitting in this energy and how long you've been in that commitment, whatever it is that you've committed yourself to. And then cloud at the end, it's like the result of this long journey has been one, it's not like a happy destination, but it doesn't really feel that way so much as it's like the cloudiness has followed you through this journey for however long it's been. And so it's like for a long time now you're recognizing again that it's been a long time since you've been in cloudless skies, so to speak. And so that's what you're being asked to acknowledge now as a drain. How do we do that? Well, I'm going to talk about each reversal on its own, because each reversal on its own is its own unique message, but then there's something that's being said by all of them together in addition to what each card is saying. And with the Emperor reversed, and especially because it's being supported by the Hanged Man, yes, reversed with the Hanged Man nonetheless, recognize and get frustrated with your stagnancy. it's not if it's not about calling it a waste of time that you haven't moved on, or that you've because you've none of it has been a waste of time. That you sorry, it's not that scrub what I just said. Sorry. It's more so just like because you've invested so much of your time, because it was a commitment. It's not about looking at it as a waste of time. It was not. You had to go through that. You had to sit through that because now you're sitting in the space of recognizing um, that it's not for you. And that's going to mean different things for all of you. For some of you, it's kind of one of those things where it's recognizing I allowed this to go on for too long. And the lesson here then being what you can and cannot allow moving forward because it only wastes you and your time. In other instances, it's, like if it's like a degree program, you went to school, you learned something. It wasn't a waste of time because you learned something in those classes. And maybe it's just about like the relation. I don't want to say just like it's anything less. I don't want to minimalize it, but like the relationships that you gained there, that's not a loss. It's not about it. None of it was a waste of time. You had to go through it. So don't look at it that way. It's more so recognizing that, okay, if this isn't what I want, what do I want? Let's start moving that way. Let's not, I mean, it's just the way that it's coming through. Let's not dilly-dally here in this frustration for too long. It's like, okay, cool, this isn't what I want to do anymore. This isn't what I want to pursue anymore. And okay, let's say that it is. Let's say that it is what you want to pursue. But you know that something needs to change because you're not happy here. You need to start doing something about that then. Just depending, apply this message, take this message as it applies. The Emperor reverse is like, okay, there's definitely this understanding that there is what you want to do and that you're not able to do it because of your current circumstance. So what can you do about that in order to get energy moving so that you can start to move in ways that you want to, so that you can start to pursue the things that you want to? Okay. The Hanged Man reversed, I always take as seeing the world through the Hanged Man's perspective, because when the Hanged Man is upwards, from our perspective, he's upside down. But when the Hanged Man is coming up reversed, then we're now looking at him upwards, so we're in his perspective. And so the Hanged Man itself is a card of suspension. And so it being up reversed and in the center here, it's kind of talking about like you recognizing that you are in suspension, again, with the Emperor reversed, that energy of stagnancy where you're not moving. There's no progression. It's just you feel stuck, basically. That's kind of what this card is giving me the energy of, where it's like the Hangman reverse is kind of like you feel stuck, you feel stagnant, you feel like you're on this tree, you're stuck here until someone pulls you down. Or in the story, usually the stories around the Hangman talk about like a certain type of time that you have to spend tied to that tree. And so there's just this, that you're stuck there for whatever reason. So like, okay, let's say again, it's a degree. You're stuck in school because it's school. It's not like you can just drop. I mean, yeah, you can just drop out, but like, I don't know, for whatever reason, you're stuck. It's something that you've committed to. So there you are. If it's a relationship, then, it's a relationship. It's what you've committed yourself to. And it's not that you're stuck there. It's just that like, it's not just about snapping your fingers and it all goes away. It's this recognition that you're in there, you're committed to it, but you're starting to see that it's not where you want to be anymore. So that's kind of what I mean by stuck, where it's this recognition of like, okay, this isn't where I want to be. And so there is effort that needs to be made in order to untangle and unweave myself from this thing that I no longer want to participate in, or that I want to engage with in a different way than I've been engaging with it thus far, if it's not something that you're trying to let go of entirely, as we've been kind of discussing. Okay, and then with the Three of Pentacles reverse, it's a two-parter, and the second part isn't going to be true for all of you. It's kind of just like a bonus. If it is true for you, it's important that it's talked about. But across the board, it's a recognition of because of the Hanged Man reversed energy, whatever it is that you are stuck in, you're also recognizing like there are things that you cannot build because the resources that you would need to build elsewhere are currently being utilized by what you are currently committed to. take that as it applies, where for some of you it really does feel like friendships, relationships, connections, where because you're in this thing, you're not able to engage and build like you're noticing other people build. And so it's kind of just like, recognize that, like, with the Emperor, it's like, okay, there are things that you want to do and pursue, and then the Three of Pentacles reverse is like, yeah, you're not able to build sturdy foundations in certain things because too much of yourself is being put into this thing that you're committed to. And then so that secondary message, where it's not going to be true for all of you, is kind of what I was saying there, where it's like it's more specific, where you have specific instances where you are actually seeing people build things that you knew you could have been a part of, but that you cannot be a part of because of what you are committed to. So it's not just like in terms of it being a hypothetical of, because I'm at school, I can't commit myself to like my friendships or whatever. It's that you're actually seeing that happen, where because of your finals or how intense your degree program is, you missed out on your best friend's wedding and your sister's baby shower and things like that, where you're missing really big important events, and you were able to be on Instagram and see all the pictures and all of the good times that like your friends and your family had, and you saw that like all of your friends from high school ended up going to your best friend's wedding, and you could have been there, and like you missed out on it. And it's like you're actually seeing tangible examples of like things that you could have been a part of if you hadn't been committed to whatever it is that you're currently being committed to. Now, it is kind of coming up energetically, so I have to point it out, where if you are in a current committed relationship and this message is coming through as there's someone that you saw is committed and they're happy, and that could have been you, where you recognize that if you weren't with your current partner, you could have been with that person and that could have been you. I'm not going to say anything about you being committed to someone while you are engaging in fantasies with someone else. That is your own business. But the point is, sit with that sharp pain, because, I mean, what did you think was going to happen? Okay, I'm just going to leave that there. It's like, yeah, girl, like, yes, that could have been you, but you decided to waste everybody's time. Not just yours, but also the current partner that you're committed to, that you clearly don't really fully want because you're out here fantasizing about someone else. So you're wasting that person's time. And then you wasted that person that you had a crush on's time, especially if they had a crush on you too, because you engaged with that while all of y'all knew that you couldn't be together because you were committed elsewhere. Like, weirdo behavior. But anyways, I had to put it out there. Sorry if that was offensive. I'm sorry. I had to put it out there. Okay. Kind of just to wrap this up, what the three cards are saying together. It sounds kind of weird, like, to say, like, I'm kind of hesitating to say it out loud because I feel like it's going to sound dumb, but this is just kind of what's coming through, where point blank, the message is go do and go build. I know. But like, in terms of how do I deal with this? Like, how do I maneuver through getting out of something that I've committed myself to, that I kind of see I don't no longer, I need to like move differently now. It's about doing what it is that you want to do. So go do, like, move, do, act. Don't just sit there. Put your desires into action. Go do, and then go build. The Three of Pentacles reversed. I'm getting go do from the Emperor, but then go build from the Three of Pentacles, where it's not just about, like, it feels like this message is coming through because you're at a point in your life where you're ready to invest yourself and see a positive return. You've gained wisdom. You know that what you have to give is better placed elsewhere, and if that's not true, it's just that you want something else. And so you're kind of being put through this so that you can understand that, okay, you want it. Are you going to do anything about it, or are you just going to accept, well, it's too hard to get out of it, so I'm just going to stick to it even though I'm miserable? Go do and go build. Otherwise, sit there and rot. brutal. I know. I know. But that's the message that was kind of that's what came up. And I have to deliver it as best as I can. And if you made it all the way through, hugs. Cause damn. Godspeed in all of your endeavors. I really hope that this reading had something for you. And if I didn't scare you away, I hope to catch you at another reading. Bye.